Can't tell you how excited we are today to be heading down to that big blue water. So yeah, it's kind of funny because we've been watching YouTubes on Esperance and that part of the southwest for so long, and we are absolutely keen to get there to see it for ourselves. All right, so we're just packing up this morning before we head out to Lucky Bay. Yeah, it's blowing a gale out there apparently. It's, what is it, Pete, about 60 knots out there?
Yeah, it's going to be gale force, so we want to get up there quickly.
Yeah, we better get going. We'll catch you out there. Really excited. So we arrive at the park and we check in at the main entry, and it's there where you've got to show your booking.
We headed down to the campground, super excited. It sits in the corner of the western side of Lucky Bay.
We drove around the various different sections. There's basically 3 different sections. There's the high ground right up the back. Then you've got the middle ground, which is basically one big long street with campsites either side. And then you've got the lower section. What I mean by that is it's right down near the beach, tucked in behind the trees. So we drove around all those areas and we were really lucky. There was actually a couple of campsites available in the middle section.
Yeah, it's first in, best dressed for sites. So my tip would be that try to get in around about 11 o'clock because the other people who are vacating will leave about 10. But there's always a spot there because you booked it and it's catered for and allowed. 6 is our site.
Okay, so just got to Lucky Bay. Feeling very lucky. Check this.
With Cape Legrand National Park, there's a few things you have to have in place before you get out there. First one is you've got to have the National Park Pass. The other thing you need to do is to book it online before you go out there. You can book up to 180 days prior, but that's the limit of the time. You need to get in earlier. The earlier the better. We actually, what did we do?
We were booking 6 months ahead, as did most of the group that we were going to camp with. You really do have to prioritise that.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all the most popular national parks through WA in the winter part of the season is heavily booked. So think ahead a little bit. So after we set up our site, we went straight down and drove along the beach to the end of the bay.
Yeah, we were really keen to get up there and check out what all the hype is about Lucky Bay and do a reconnoitre. So we packed in a couple of ciders and some nibbles and headed up. It was fantastic.
There's no restrictions, there's no permit other than it is obviously a road, so you have to abide by road rules. But you can just drive all the way along to the end of the rocks and back again.
We're really looking forward to such an awesome week ahead, as a few of us had managed to book the campground here at the same time around 6 months ago now. So yeah, friends Liz and Simon and the boys were due to arrive soon, and they're an awesome full-time travelling family. They're the lifestyle pioneers. They're such incredible people, beautiful family, and their YouTube channel is amazing, so be sure to hop on over and check out their incredible off-grid adventures as they travel around Australia. Their friends Mel and Pete and the boys will be there too. And also YouTubers Alan and Jess from Explore Oz will be camped up here. They have an awesome channel. They're absolute legends, these guys. So jump on over and check out their videos. The next day, we decide to walk one of the trails that leads over to Thistle Cove. So we're camping here at Lucky Bay, and this morning we're going to go for a walk up here, up to the top of the hill, and check out what's there, which is easily accessed at the back of the campground.
So we first came across Matthew Flinder's monument. He was the explorer who came into this bay for safe anchorage on January 9th, 1802, while he was circumnavigating Australia. He called it Lucky Bay because it was safe for them to moor overnight.
The trail over to Thistle Cove is a really easy walk across coastal heath and low granite outcrops. They say to allow for about an hour one way. There is a little bit of a climb halfway through up a little small narrow track, but it's not too bad. Along the way we were on the lookout for little honey-eater birds. Apparently they just love the native honeysuckle. It's called chittick. We didn't see any little birds, but we certainly saw the beautiful wildflowers. I just can't believe all the beautiful flora up here. The colour is amazing and the variety is out of this world.
The views as we crested the hill and started descending downwards to the ocean side were beautiful, which later inspired me to do a watercolour. We went for our walk and we headed over the hill. We were suddenly confronted with this view, and it was very breathtaking, but also it appealed to me for many reasons for a painting. The composition and the colour all seemed to work together with the diminishing perspective, the light colour of the water in the background, the different type of foliage, the shadow that was being cast.
So tell me about what you work on when you're in nature as opposed to when you're back at the van and you're working here on the table.
Well, I generally like to work fairly quickly on location. I like to do studies of things that inspire me, and then I'll go back and paint them either back here at the van or back at the studio at home.
So I noticed that you love putting people lastly into a landscape in your paintings, Pete.
Look, it's my style. I guess everybody's a bit different, but I kind of feel that when I do my paintings and I put people in, little or big, they kind of anchor it. We all like seeing each other, we all like seeing other humans, and so they might be small. This one, you know, they're very small, but they're there, and it's got a little fishing rod, and it just for me, that vanishing point comes through and then you see them. And I always like putting in a few birds because I think it sort of anchors the sky and the land together.
As we were heading back from the walk, we went down to the campground and walked along the front of it. There's a beautiful part of the beach there where the kangaroos hang out, and they are so cool. I think they're fairly tame, but they were just hanging around, chilling on the beach and in the bush there. Just beautiful. So the next day, Lizzy and Simon arrived and the boys, and it was so great to reunite. Once they'd set up, we headed down the beach for a bit of a drive and a swim. How gorgeous is Lucky Bay?
Absolutely magnificent. Yeah, we parked up right down the back end where the rocks were.
It was a sunny day, the turquoise water was calling, and so we jumped in. It was a bit fresh, must admit, but boy, you know you're alive. And so after the swim, we came back up to the cars, and Lizzy and Simon grabbed out a couple of beach games that they've got there, so that was really good fun, playing a few games with them and the boys. And then after that, I'd said to Simon, hey mate, I've never been for a ride in a trippy. So at that point, Lizzy said, hey, let's swap cars. Tan, you jump in with Simon, I'll jump in with Pete. Guess what, guys? This is my first time in a troopy.
Yeah, lots of fun as we were driving along, and the girls got their cameras out and took some really neat footage of it. Get in the car, you rabbit.
Over the next couple of days, we set off exploring the stunning bays and features of Cape Le Grand National Park, including Hellfire Bay, Thistle Cove and Frenchman's Peak.
Yeah, the first one we did was Hellfire Bay. It's about a 10-minute drive from the campground.
It's nestled in between giant granite rocks. Hellfire Bay is thought to have been named after St Elmo's fire, a bluish flame-like electrical discharge that sometimes occurs above ships' masts. We took a stroll along the 600 metre length of beach. It's fairly secluded, absolutely stunning. Wow, we have been waiting for the sun to come out at Cape Le Grand National Park, and it's turning it on today. So we're walking down the track towards Thistle Cove now, and I've just looked up and seen a beautiful vantage point of Frenchman's Peak over there in the distance. So we descended from the car park and found ourselves on a huge sloping rock at the start of the beach, which gave us grandstand views of Thistle Cove's gorgeous beach and the sculptured granite hills beyond.
So it was a good opportunity for me to get the drone up. There was only 20 metres from the car where we checked out the Whistling Rock. It's a giant bent slab that stands vertically but curved towards the sea in a way that it picks up ambient sounds that are amplified and focused from the winds that come in.
We did get to hear a little bit of a sound effect of the wind rushing through it, especially because that day the sea was fairly rough and noisy. So we headed up to view Frenchman's Peak. You can walk the peak, and actually our friends Lizzy Bailey from Lifestyle Pioneers and Jess Allan from Explore Oz did exactly that early one morning.
It's a granite dome with a pointy peak that resembles the hats worn by the French troops in the 1800s.
Frenchman's Peak, or Mandaburnup, stands out as a survivor of wind, water and the forces of nature that have eroded most of the surrounding landscape over thousands of years. It's amazing to think that its large cave up near the summit is thought to have formed by wave action and underwater currents during a period some 40 million years ago, when sea levels were at least 300 metres above their current level, and the peaks were actually largely submerged. So, beautiful Lizzy Bailey and I share a love of art and creativity and nature, and it just warmed my heart to think she went out and bought a canvas way back when we booked Lucky Bay months ago in anticipation of enjoying a couple of creative sessions together.
Art studio. She's given me a one-on-one today, which I'm so... Do you know, I have been dreaming of this since we met in Tassie at the Wineglass Bay.
Yeah.
Probably even earlier.
Yeah. And every little text message Liz would say, Tans, we're going to do that art.
Yeah.
And there'd be like little painting symbols and paintbrush symbols at the end of each text. Like.
And we literally booked this campsite together, and I like ducked off to, this is just a cheapie frame from Kmart because it comes pre-framed. And I've been carrying this frame around with me for about 6 months, just waiting for this moment. So I'm stoked.
Well, it's like this morning,
so
early
talented.
this morning, I get a text from Liz. How does 8 o'clock in the morning sound, Tar? And I said, perfect. Now, I have to say, Liz is amazing. She's a beautiful mother, wife and businesswoman, whilst living full-time on the road, adventuring with her hubby Simon and 2 little boys. And she's also near to completing her interior decorating degree. And so we set aside an afternoon. I set up the van like an art studio,
So good. That need now, Tan.
All right, I'm thinking what I call the jewels,
Yeah.
the little finishing touches. All right, so we're going to put in some opaque versions of the colours you have down here, and I think that'll finish it off beautifully.
Tan is such a master teacher. She claims she's not, but she is. Final seal.
The finishing touch looks great.
Yeah.
Ready for the reveal?
Ta-da!
Look at you. That is
I love it. Gosh, I would not have been able to mix these colours without your help. This is so gorgeous.
It has been so much fun. Thank you.
I tell you what, if you ever see Tanya, definitely just, make the time. Make the time. Carry the canvas. Just everyone go out and buy yourself a canvas, and just in case you run into her on the road. Ta-da! Doesn't that look gorgeous?
It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. It's all the Australian colours, is it?
It is, and this is my abstract of a gum tree and all the creatures and critters and foliage around it.
We had a ball. It was an absolute pleasure seeing Liz enjoy herself and get immersed in experimenting with some paint and creativity. And oh my goodness, she's such a natural, of course. Her work was beautiful.
We'd booked a lengthy time at Lucky Bay Campground with 2 separate bookings side by side. However, I mistakenly found that I'd left a gap for one day. I tried my hardest to see if I could get a spot for one day, but I couldn't. However, I managed to get a booking at Cape Legrand Campground, which is only 9 kilometres away, to fill in that night. It was a bit of a bugger having to pack up only to return to Lucky Bay the next day, but it actually ended up being a blessing in disguise.
And that was that we got a lovely sheltered and really secluded campsite tucked in behind the dunes at Cape Legrand Campground. But even better, that night was a treat. We decided to take our chairs up to the dunes just behind us and watch the magical display of light as the sun went down over the Southern Ocean.
Yeah, it was very, very beautiful. And what was more extraordinary was the fact that Lucky Bay, you see the sunrise, but 9 kilometres away, you actually watch the sunset. So we really enjoyed our one night stay there, didn't we?
It's a cracker little campground. It's nestled in just behind a wide sweep of beach with absolutely stunning distant views that actually look out over to the distant islands. And even better, this epic sunset that we had just happened to be the night we camped there. So grateful.
Yeah. So thank you, universe.
So because we had the opportunity to stay at both campgrounds, being Lucky Bay and Cape Legrand Campground, we just thought we'd share a little bit about what we found.
Lucky Bay is exposed up on a hill, so when it blows you do get the wind. Whereas Cape Legrand is more secluded, it's quiet, it's tucked away. So I think the main difference between Lucky Bay and Cape Legrand is the size. I mean, there's 56 campsites in Lucky Bay and there's only 15 at Cape Legrand. There's plenty of opportunity to have big vans at Lucky Bay, where down at Cape Legrand there's probably only 1 or 2. Both roads are bitumen, so it's easily accessible for 2-wheel drive as well as 4-wheel drive. And you can drive on the beach in both camps. With Lucky Bay, obviously you can drive along around the cove there, but where Cape Legrand is, it's just a straight stretch of sand.
The campsites themselves are lined with crushed gravel.
Yeah, and I think the facilities are excellent. There's toilets and showers in both.
And lastly, there's no water refill facilities in both campgrounds, so you will need to bring in your water.
Yeah, there's nothing there, so plan for going back to Esperance if you're going to be there for an extended period of time. So what we did is that we went into Esperance, I think 2 times out of 2 weeks to get water and fuel and food. So that's it. That's at capacity. That's 95 litres. And we'll take that back to the van and we'll transfer it into one of the water tanks.
Yeah, and it's great because Esperance is only a 40-minute drive, so
Yeah.
no problem.
And have a sneaky beer at the brewery.
Absolutely.
So last night, Simon was out getting some awesome late afternoon footage and lost his drone flying over the far side of Lucky Bay. He was pretty devastated, so we decided to help out a mate. We would get out in the morning and retrieve it. So the 3 of us, Alan, Simon and myself, set off to recover it. I tell you what, it was an adventure. It took 4 hours. Where are we going, Simon?
Let's go get a drone, Pete. Let's go find our drone.
Right, mate. Sounds good.
Don't fly near mountains at sunset.
Well, you'll imagine if you get the shot. We took the drone's GPS coordinates and overlaid it on Google Maps. So we knew where it was, and it had crashed somewhere high up in the saddle of some bushes between 2 hills on a peninsula.
Okay, let's go to the rock and have a look.
So where is it?
It's over there. It looks like an island, but it's not, I don't think. Well, we think it's not an island. I didn't bring my swimming gear, though.
Does that mean we're going to get our feet wet?
We most likely will get our feet wet, yes.
But we had to get over a certain amount of water at low tide to retrieve it.
I think we got a good chance.
I think it's in that first bit of it. So we stay to the rocks around the coast.
It took us a while to work our way through the bush and thickets up into the boulders, which were pretty well largely inaccessible. There was no tracks, there was nothing. We just had to find our way and use the coordinates from the GPS. As we went along, we saw that there was a water crossing, and we realised that we had to get over it before the tide came in. Once we crossed the water, Simon and Alan went ahead and I stayed at the base of the saddle and sent up the drone. It was seriously so remote, yet so beautiful. So just for a while, I enjoyed being way out there where not many people get to go.
Yeah, and you got to see a seal too.
So there's just this small little bit of water you got to get across. It's about 10 metres and there's rocks through it. And somehow he was taking a shortcut through the rocks, through the water to get to the other side. Otherwise, you got to swim all the way around the peninsula.
So you eventually returned.
So yes, we did return, and it was no mean feat. We all had scratches and bruises and marks all over us from the thicket, but the whole camp was jubilant. We had actually found it, and we were pretty buggered, to be honest, and Lizzy got a cold ale out for us as we sat down and had a rest.
Yeah, and she cooked you up some awesome hamburgers that night. But I tell you what though, you boys were feeling it the next couple of days after too.
Yeah, well, secretly I'm a little bit older than those two, but yeah, I think Liz told me Simon was feeling it for a few days as well.
Near the end of our time at Lucky Bay, the whole crew made a beeline one afternoon to the Lucky Bay Brewery in Esperance. It's only about a 40-minute drive from camp.
It's a micro brewery with a difference, making the most genuinely local craft beer in Australia. They pioneered how to create tasty beer by using up to 75% raw barley. This means that they can get barley direct from local farmers to use in their brews. Lucky Bay Brewing is the first and only brewery in Australia to do this. I reckon that's pretty cool.
And it's so good the way they've set up the brewery. It's really family friendly. They've got a large grassy playground for the kids to play on. The best thing though is the wood fire pizzas. They are to die for. And look, it was just generally such a great place to hang out and enjoy a few pints together. As much as the beauty and features of a location are amazing, it's the people you're with that make the place. It's been an epic time hanging out here with Alan and Jess, Lizzy and Simon, Pete and Mel and all the little people. It's been unforgettable.
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
We can see why Lucky Bay has been voted one of the world's best beaches, boasting unspoilt and spectacular features and scenery.
What a cracker location, there's so much to do here. We couldn't think of a better way to kick off our months ahead of coastal beach camping and touring this incredible state of Western Australia. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thanks for watching, and if you're enjoying our content, be sure to like and subscribe. Happy and safe travels always.